Hi, I'm Jill Finley at Jillily Studio, and I'm here with my good friend Janet Platt from QuickPoints Rulers. We're here sewing up a storm today, and we've had a great time together, haven't we, Janet? We always do. We always do. Well, today we made this really cute little pillowcase, and it's a little ballerina pillowcase. We got little dance shoes and little dancers on it.
So cute.
And a lot of really cute scallop trim. And Janet is the, hold up your ruler right there, Janet. Janet is the designer creator of this wonderful scallop ruler tool that I used for this, and she's the one that made those scallops for us, so we're going to get busy and show you how we did it. Okay, I'm going to use my ruffler foot on my machine. This is my Bernina 750, and it has a ruffler foot. You can get them for almost any machine, whichever one you have, and this is what it looks like. It's adjustable so that you can determine how many stitches you want between your pleats. And that you can fiddle around with. I've got this one set at 6, and I'm going to use stitch length of 2.5. And then I bring my fabric. Now I have a piece of fabric that's going to create the ruffle. I've got it doubled, so I've folded it, and I have the fold edge on the outside, the cut edge on the machine, and that's what I'm going to ruffle. I'm going to slide this under, right there where it belongs, against the between the two bars. It's very simple to do, and then away we go. Now it's going to pull you just kind of loosely guide it because it's going to pull the fabric in and tuck it under as it's stitching. And let me show you that. Okay. See, that creates a really nice even ruffle that I'm going to attach to my pillowcase. This edge is folded, so we have a nice finish on both sides. We're ready to make the scallops, and Janet's going to show us how to use her scalloped ruler. This is the 1-inch size, right, Janet?
Correct. You just need a 4-inch strip of fabric, 2 pieces of fabric right sides together. You can do 1 or 2 colors. If you do 2 colors, it will be every other scallop be a different color. All you have to do is trace around the ruler. You want to mark your end points, you want to mark your centers, you want to mark everything that's on this ruler because there's a reason for everything on the ruler. Also, the directions are on the ruler so you don't lose your directions. You want to drop your stitch length to a 2, use your 1/4-inch foot, and what you want to do is, this one you use your trace line as your mark, and you want to sew a 1/4 inch in, a 1/4 inch from your trace line. Then when you get to your end point, which is marked, you want to stop, you want to pivot, do 1 stitch across, because anytime you have a deep V, you need the 1 stitch across in order to turn it.
So you're going to sew all the way down this side and then come back and sew on this side.
Correct.
And you sew right to these points that are marked. And Janet's going to do that off camera, and we'll come back with the next step.
Okay, super.
Using this little line that she had drawn following her ruler, she sewed right, using the that as a guide, right?
Correct.
A 1/4 inch away. And then we've been trimming it to about 1/8 of an inch. And when you get to this inside point, you trim down to the sewing but not through it. And then keep trimming.
Yes.
About 1/8 of an inch.
Yeah, you just cut between the trace line and the sew line.
Okay.
And then you want to cut through the top layer only.
Okay. I'm going to reach inside here with my scissors.
Yep.
And just catch the top layer and cut right on the center line, right?
Yes.
So I'm not cutting through the back because I've got 2 layers of fabric. So I'm cutting on the center line right down. Now what about on this end?
You just cut.
How far? Almost to the end?
Yes, that's good.
Okay. And then we're going to show you how to turn this. So we're going to turn the right sides out until we've got them looking beautiful. And then they need a little help, don't they?
Yes, they need a little help.
And this is where Janet's great invention comes in. Let me grab it here. This is a pusher, and this is the pusher that comes with the 1-inch scalloped ruler. Each of her scallop sizes has a different size pusher. Now I've got my iron, and Janet's the pro at this, but I'm going to try it, and she's going to tell me what I'm doing wrong and what I'm doing right. I just push the pusher in and then press with my iron. Just do 1 scallop at a time.
Yes.
So that's 1. Then I'll keep moving down this row. Push
I
this
usually
in.
just stand it up. So that I
Oh,
can...
you stand it up like this?
Yes.
Oh, good. You know what? Let's have Janet do it.
I just
She's
stand
so
it
good
up
at it.
because then I can get the
Seam right on the
seam
top
right
of
on
it.
the top, and then you can hold it down.
You can see that we've gone down this and we've turned it around and gone down the other side. So the scallops are done on one side, and when you turn the whole thing over, this is what you have. Kind of a rickrack looking thing with the raw edge cut down the middle on this side. Now if I was going to bind a quilt with this, I would just fold it in half and press it over the top of the, I sew it over the edge of the quilt, and that would encase the edge, right?
Yes.
Becomes the binding. But this is going to be a little trim on my pillowcase, and you could do both layers of scallop. That would be cute, but I decided I wanted just one layer. So I'm now going to cut it apart on the center line, and I'll just do that with a rotary cutter. But I wanted to show you this way because this is a trick Janet taught me. One time I thought I was smart and I traced her ruler and cut it apart because I only wanted to use a single side, and then it was nearly impossible for me to turn because I didn't have anything to hold on to as I was pushing the pusher out. So if you are going to cut it in half, just do half as much lengthwise and do it as the full scallop on both sides. That way you have something to hold on to as you're turning them, and then after it's all turned, cut it apart. I'm just going to put my ruler right down the center where the cut line already is. And I guess we don't really have to measure, do we, Janet? Just go right on.
No, just do the center.
And then just cut. Oh, it's a little scary. But now I have two edges that are two lengths of scallops that are finished with no raw edges, and the raw edge is here, and I'm going to sew this into the seam, and I'll show you that next. Now I'm sewing my ruffle to my little border piece, and I've got the border piece on the bottom so that I can see my stitching line on the ruffle, because I wasn't very exact with my seam allowance, and I want to be sure that I cover the stitching line because I don't want to have to unpick that. So I'm just stitching along here about, probably 3/8 of an inch from the edge, just following that stitching line that's on the ruffle so that I can put these two pieces together. So when I turn it over, this is right sides together, and I have a nice finished edge. So they've come out with a brand new foot, which I'm so excited. This is brand new, maybe a couple weeks old is all. And this is the 97D, and when I put it on my machine, you can see it's still a 1/4 inch from the center, from my needle down over to the edge of the foot, but this side of the foot is totally covering this feed dog, so that's going to be really good at gripping that fabric and pushing it through. And I can also use this foot with my dual feed, which will allow the foot to walk a little bit and feed the fabric through at the same time. So it's going to be really good for using multiple layers, and I'm really excited about this. So this foot also has the same markings that you'd have on your traditional 1/4 inch foot, so you have a 1/4 inch away from the needle position right there with these marks. This has the same marks, it's just got a wider shank on the left side. Okay, let's get started. Now I've got my pillowcase body, and I've pinned the little cute scallops to the pillowcase body, and you could sew that on first and then add your ruffle, but I'm going to do it all in one step because it's quicker and I'm a little lazier. So now I'm going to put my ruffle on top, and then I just have to watch this top edge to make sure that all my edges are even, and we're ready to go. Okay, so I'm just going to follow the 1/4 inch foot right here, take out the pins as I go, and sandwich those cute little scallops in between these two layers. And these pins are so thin that you can usually sew right over them because your needle will just push them aside, but I like to take them out just in case. Just in case. I'm sewing my pillowcase together now, and I've put wrong sides together. I know that seems incorrect, but we're going to do a French seam so that we don't have any raw edges. So first of all, I pressed my little scallops facing down to this little border, so that means the seam allowance is pressed back this way. And then I'm just got wrong sides together, and I'm just using a 1/4 inch foot, and I'm going to take a scant 1/4 inch seam because I'm going to encase that seam when I come back the second time to do the French seam. So we'll sew all the way down with this little scant 1/4 inch seam. Now I've got a directional fabric here, and so when you're using a directional fabric, think about that as you're putting your pillowcase together, because whichever way you do it is the way it's going to lay across the bed. So you don't want your ballerinas dancing upside down. So this is the pillow that goes on the left side of the bed, and I'm going to make a companion one that will go on the right side with the dancers going right side up. Now I have turned my pillowcase inside out, and so now my right sides are together. Now remember, my ruffle is a double-sided, so it's got the right side here, but you can see here that this is the wrong side of the fabric, so I've got the right sides together. The seam is pressed so that when I stitch now, I'm going to totally encase all the raw edges. I'm going to take, last time I took a little scant 1/4 inch seam, this time I'm going to take a generous 1/4 inch seam to make sure all of those raw edges stay inside. And you can trim your little seam allowance, which is probably a good idea, especially if you didn't sew real scant. But I think I sewed scant enough, and I will just take a little more generous seam. All right. Okay, so you can see that now my raw edges are encased inside the seam allowance here. So when I get this pillowcase finished, all the raw edges will be inside. I'm just finishing up. See, I've got a little bit more generous seam allowance there, probably a 3/8 inch seam allowance. I'm going to backstitch right here.